Okay, so we're going to kick things off with our learning module today. We're going to be talking about communication, specifically in the context of developers. I think that you all have been crushing it communication-wise. That's been like a theme in both of our retros. People have been really happy with our communication. So this is just, I'm preaching to the choir, but we're just going to talk through a couple of things of some things we haven't touched on in previous learning modules as far as like effective communication. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And there we go. All right, so communication for devs. I don't know if y'all know this, but my previous career, I was a linguist and like I worked in language access and language education. So I really think that communication is key. Like it's, I really think that even in that career, it was very clear, but as devs also, communication is like a core part of what we do. And that's not always the popular perception of it, but I think if you don't already agree, once we're done with this learning module, you'll see that we really are constantly communicating as developers if we're doing it right. So just a quick question for y'all. As developers, what kinds of, when I talk about communication, what kinds of communication are coming to mind? What styles of communication do you think we engage in? For example, we've talked in the past, we've done a learning module on PRs, and we've talked about that as a form of communication. What other forms of communication do we utilize? Oh yeah, I see Caitlin has written down. We have, in terms of written communication, we use reviews, comments, Slack messages. Spoken communication, we do pair programming and video chats. Yeah, beautiful. Like we've been doing so much communication so far in this cohort. So a couple, we'll touch on a couple of some of the things that Caitlin's mentioned and some other things as well. Yeah, Loom videos, async audio and video. There's like just so many types of communication that we could utilize. So we're going to talk about a few of them. One big one that we haven't really practiced on this team so far is documentation. Documentation can be quite a broad umbrella, but it often, if you use the word documentation, there's a specific type of documentation that comes to mind for developers. Documentation is something that we can use to kind of like record what we've done. Like I was telling someone, I have a really bad memory, so it's really helpful to me to just track every step I've done, what's worked, what hasn't worked. It helps you to learn. If you're writing things down, it can be helpful for revisiting big decisions. Onboarding new team members, it's essential to have good documentation. It avoids institutional knowledge. It makes it so that not just one person has all the information, and then if they leave the team, that knowledge is gone. You want to make sure you have it written down somewhere. And it empowers all team members to, have access to that information and be able to make decisions knowing that they are informed decisions. And then how can we do documentation well? These are just a couple of tips. So think of your audience as the person who knows the least. So you're not just going to assume that people know certain things. Try and write for like a beginner in general when you're writing documentation, or the person on your team who like has the least context for what's going on. But also at the same time, optimize for the person who needs a quick reference. So you want to make it really easy to skim and find information. So you have lots of context written down for the person who needs it, but you're also formatting it so that the person who kind of already has context can skip to the part that's relevant to them. And there's a documentation example here. I will link this to you all afterwards, just in the interest of time. I'm not going to jump too much into the resources, but here we go. Let's see. Ooh, sorry. The next type of communication that we'll talk about is pull requests. So we have talked about these a little bit in the past, or rather we've talked about code review, but pull requests specifically, I know we've talked I believe in retros, we've talked about how useful it is to have really clear PRs. So why are pull requests important? They help give reviewers context on your code. I think we've all found it's really really lovely to review someone's code when they have a really rich description in the PR and lots of context and tips of how to do things. So it's much nicer on your reviewer. And it's also just helpful also for yourself, because a big part of interviewing is walking through your code. And if you, like me, get very nervous in an interview, my brain goes out the window, and I just need to rely on having like very clear steps for myself to help me remember what I've talked about, or rather what I did, and why I made those decisions. So just having your thoughts organized, it's helpful for other people. It's helpful for yourself too, to remember why you did things or how you did things. Okay. And how can we do PRs well? I think these are all things that you all have already been practicing. It's really helpful. The Collab Lab template has been helpful to us to see like a good example of filling out a PR, but screenshots, GIFs, and videos, anything visual to help your reviewer understand what change is being made at a glance, rather than reading a dense, paragraph describing functionality. You can just show them like an image side by side of like before and after. This is what it looked like. This is what it looks like now, and that can really help them quickly get up to speed. Linking to resources and permalinks in links to resources and permalinks to code that you reference. So again, just making it easy for someone to understand what you're talking about. Like if you're talking about a specific page of documentation, you can link that. Or if there's a specific line of code, for example, I noticed this week, Pat had commented on their PR that like, this is something that we didn't feel super great about. And it made it easy for everyone to look at the same line of code and think through like how we can better approach that problem. So that was really helpful. So again, that kind of links back to self-reviewing your own PR before asking others to review your code. So seeing what might stand out or what areas might be helpful to talk about on your PR. Keeping them small and narrowly scoped, again, makes it easier to digest, understand what you're talking about. And if it's like a giant PR with thousands of lines, hundreds or thousands of lines of code, like it's very daunting for someone to read through all of that. So just making sure that it's your one function that you're trying to change in a PR makes it really, really nice for your reviewer. And I will share this link afterwards, but just an example of a PR description. I've been very impressed with all of your PR descriptions in general. So keep doing what you're doing, and also think about some of these ideas to help supplement that. Okay, and the last type of documentation that we're going to talk about is comments in code. So this is something that can be a little controversial. Some people have very strong opinions about comments in code, but it can, when used sparingly and intentionally, it can be very helpful. So if there is some kind of if there's a function that you've written a specific way and it has to be written this way, it can be helpful to just write a comment in your code like, this is what we did, don't change this, because it's being very intentionally done this way. Can make it easier for future developers in your code base to understand that like this is something done with a purpose. So it gives your team more context while they're actively tracing through code that you implemented. And so code can, in some ways, be self-documenting. You should be having clear variable names, for example, or function names. It should be clear what you're trying to achieve with your code. But like it says here, the decisions behind the code are not always self-apparent. So you shouldn't need to write like a comment like, oh, this variable means this. Like you should try and have a descriptive variable name. But if there's like a specific reason for a specific approach, that's when code comments can be especially useful. Okay, and then how can we do comments well in our code? Again, so we're just going to focus on the why of our code rather than like the what of our code. The what should be self-documenting. It should be clear just from reading your code, but the why is more where sometimes it can be helpful to have additional context. And we have another example of great code comments. Again, I will share this link afterwards for you to peruse on your own. But yeah, just thinking about why instead of what, I think is a good context for when you might want to use code comments. All right. And here we've got just a quick question for y'all. So what have your experiences with documentation, PR descriptions, and code comments been like? Yeah, I'll just open the floor for a couple minutes if anyone has any thoughts about this question.
When I did my take home for the Lakers, I added a few comments throughout, just like sprinkled throughout the project, and the lead developer was very thankful for that. He pointed that out like as a good thing, I guess.
Nice. That's awesome. Did he say what, like, did he say why he was thankful for it?
I think just because, like he's never seen my code before, so it kind of would made it a little bit easier to like scan through and like maybe look for specific points that I was assigned to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Again, like for when you're talking to someone new, which happens when you're interviewing for jobs, that can be really helpful to help them, speed through your code. Nice. Anyone else have any thoughts about this question?
Yeah, if I can chime in, I'm a strong advocate for documentation, and I know sometimes it feels tedious, and sometimes you are trying to get things done, but documenting how you got them done is very, very important, especially when it gets to like infrastructure setup or like any sort of harder logic. Because if you struggle through the process and you came up with something, if you document it, it will take another person way less time, and even for you to come back and do the same things, like, I don't know, a year later, it will also take less time because people forget things, and just having them written down is very, very important.
100%. Yeah, I totally agree. Documentation often is not prioritized um, by a lot of people, but it's a crucial skill, and it's crucial for any team to have good documentation. Love it. All right. The next couple slide, or the next slide rather, our last slide has some links. You'll be getting this afterwards. I'll also add it to our resources file so that you can look through these. But there's some really good tips in some of these documents if you have a chance to look through them. But I'm going to stop sharing now. And did anyone have any questions before I pass it over to the demos? All right, cool. I think Volha is doing demos today. Is that right?
Yes, I am. So let's start with Pat and Nuria, please. If you want to, who want to get us started with the code or the implementation of it? If you would like to share your screen.
Yeah, I can do the code. One second. Okay. Can you see it? Okay. So for our task, we had to show if item in the list was already there based on different cases. So we passed in the, what did we do? Is this the right one? Yeah. We passed in the data from the app.js to the add item.jsx just to allow us to parse through all the data that's in the list, and we can compare with that. We set up this new state duplicate error, and it was a true or false. It's a Boolean. And then here is where we check to see if the item is already in the list. So we compare the item name to the item name, which this is the user input. And the item name is just whatever's in the list right now. And we do data.sum. So if any of these, if there's one true, then dot sum is dot every is if they're all true. Dot sum is if there's only one true, then it will return with true. So we set them both to lowercase, and then this regex. I'm not entirely sure with what it does, but it seems to have done everything that the original like dot filter, like we're filtering out all the spaces and all the special characters. I think this just checks if it's an alphanumeric value. And then here, this is why it only worked for one space, because we just did if item.name equals that. But I was kind of thinking, and we could do, I tried like item.length, item name.length, but you know, spaces still come up as a length. So you couldn't do like item.length equals 0. So item.length.trim.length equals 0, because then no matter how many spaces, it would still be 0. So that's a way to do it. And then we have, if this is duplicate comes out true, if this dot sum returns a true, then or if it's a false, then we just go on and add the item to the list. If it is true, if there is a conflict, then we say item's already in the list and we set the duplicate error to true. And then we fix this set timeout. We move this reset form data out of the set timeout because it was resetting the user input after 2 seconds, which like before we did this would allow the user to accidentally like spam like 3 like posts or items at the same time. So that fixed that.
All right, excellent. Thank you so very much for sharing. And Nuria, would you go with a presentation?
Yeah, hi guys. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, here is our production. This shopping list, just ignore all the bananas. And we will try. For example, let's go with banana, but we want to add some special character. For example, this. And it says it's already on our list because we have a banana here. Yeah. If we try to do like empty, it doesn't let us add. We have to fill out. But again, we have a bug. Thank you, Volha. But if it's one space, you cannot add empty item. But if it's 2 or 3, yeah. That's our issue. Yeah,
All right.
work on it.
Great job. If I may ask, what were some of curious questions or situations that come up during this working on this issue? Was there something new you learned, or that surprised you?
We learned how to deal with special characters, because at the beginning we just list all the special characters top of our head. That's common, but which is not practical. For example, like Caitlin pointed, what is the international keyboard someone has, and it would go through it. So we decided to go with the regex, but we're kind of new to regex. Yeah.
I think, yeah, the hardest part of this issue was kind of figuring out a way to cover all the different cases of user input. Yeah.
Great job figuring this out. Thank you so very much for sharing.
Mhm.
Yep, really good job. I'm glad you followed up and added the regex stuff that we we talked about. That was really good because that really is kind of the best way to do it. Because you're right, lots of different things can be put into a keyboard.
Yeah, I think that was a great exercise in just like flipping your thinking of, okay, so this is what the issue says, but it says like don't allow special characters. So we're focusing on special characters, but maybe if we flip it and say, okay, but what characters are we allowing? That can be helpful. Like it can be helpful to think of it from the other side of the coin if you're getting stuck in terms of troubleshooting. But yeah, if you didn't see the comments in the chat, everyone is confused by regex. It's not just you. So welcome to the club. But we did share that. Well, that one resource is helpful that we shared in Slack is helpful for translating regex. But you'll get more used to it, but it is confusing. Don't feel bad.
All right, wonderful. So for the second demo, would you, Mira,
Yeah.
Caitlin, are you ready to go? Would you like us to pause the recording for a second and see, what's going on?
We still need to finish it, so it totally depends on whether you want that to be the demo, or I don't know if I'm totally certain what the question is.
So if we're going to go ahead and work on troubleshooting as a team, if it takes the pressure off, I can pause the recording for this section just so we can kind of look at it together. But if y'all want to have it to reference back to, I can continue the recording. But I'll leave it to y'all how comfortable you are with that.
I'm not bothered. Mira, do you care?
I prefer recording to refer.
Prefer recording. Okay, keep recording then.
Cool. All right, love it. Great attitude, everyone. Okay, yeah. So Volha, I don't know if you want to kind of talk them. Volha, you were the most involved with helping troubleshoot. Thank you, by the way. Do you kind of want to help guide us through, or like talk Caitlin and Mira through getting us up to speed so we can kind of help troubleshoot?
Of course. I need to see what the current state is. So maybe if Mira or Caitlin can share their screen and see, what state they are right now and what's going on and what needs to be done, how we can help.
Okay, I can share my screen. I am having some internet connectivity issues, so Amira, I may need you to take over if I lose connection here. Give me 1 second. Oops. I'm just going to open the Firestore as well. I need to share my entire screen.
That's always very brave.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But I know that we need it open because, although that being said, we haven't had the daily max limit reached error happen so far today. So that error is gone, which is nice.
Yeah. So were y'all able to find if there was some kind of infinite loop somewhere in the code that was causing that error, or is it just kind of
We didn't
happening?
We didn't happen across a specific one. I don't know if we inadvertently fixed it along the way.
Was one of the reasons that it was happening. I think there was like a extraneous like use effect that was happening. So that was updating everything every time something re-rendered. And I saw that because I don't think there were any dependencies listed in the array. I don't know if that was ever fixed.
Oh, maybe. So maybe we got rid of it in the course of our tinkering around and just inadvertently fixed it.
Let me see if I haven't actually looked at it yet.
Okay. I think I have everything open here. Desktop 1 share. Okay. Give me a thumbs up that you can see my screen. Wait, okay. I'm gonna hide you all. I'll put it over here. Okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna open the inspector. Okay, so the current issue we're having is we're still getting undefined for some of our values. So it seems to be happening when, sorry, let me see that, Firebase 118. So it seems to happen when we're triggering this else condition. So if the item does not have a date last purchased, we're getting undefined.
Can you please go to the list? It should, like, if you go to the air, right? To the console air, list lines 35.
List line 35.
List item, sorry, list item.
Oh, list item. Oh, here. Okay. Yeah. List item 35. So that's our update item with the new item data. Oh, wait, didn't we already do this though? Where we just had to pass all of the values through?
Exactly.
Yeah, wait a minute. Oh my.
And also they are not all the values because you also have like a name and something else.
Oh, ID.
Yeah, like some of them are missing.
ID. Copy ID. Date last purchased, date next purchase, total purchases. Okay, so just the ID is missing.
And I think name is also there because if you look on the Firebase, it does have a name field.
Oh, yeah, that was one question I had because name is passed in like separately up here for this. And then also I noticed in here name is put as ID. And Mira and I had talked about it, but she had said that there was an error that was happening with the last issue when this was created. And that's why that's written like that. But yeah, I wasn't sure about that because name seems to be passed through separately from the other item.
Yeah. So when I remember when we were looking at the code yesterday, we would often get undefined because you would pass a limited amount of items, right? But on the other side, in your Firebase, you would expect to have more items that you passed, and that would introduce a lot of undefined. So perhaps a good practice would be to pass like the entirety of your item, right? And then just select what you need there. So let's try it now.
So pass the entirety of the item through list item?
Yeah, because I think you even have the name commented out somewhere, right? I just saw it. Yeah, like
it's commented out here.
Yeah. So perhaps uncommented.
I don't know. We weren't. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. I'll just pass it all. Pass it all.
Would it one question I did have is like, would it help to like just forego the destructuring altogether and just use the dot parameters to mention it?
Can you repeat that? I went like a little gurgly.
Sorry, I'm not using my good mic. I was asking would it make more sense to just forego the destructuring altogether and just have the item name dot, the item dot, whatever parameter it is in there so that it's a little less confusing? Does that make sense? So like rather than destructuring everything from like the item data into like just those parameters like ID or is checked, it would be like item data dot ID or item data dot is checked. Utilizing that throughout the code, would that be less confusing?
I think so personally, but I didn't want to like undo all of the destructuring.
No, you don't have to undo it. I'm asking if would it be clearer to do that? Because while I think like destructuring something like that is okay, especially like if you're going to be using things over and over again, but like sometimes it's easier to just remember that things are like parameters of actual objects. And it makes the code a tiny bit clearer for me, at least. I don't know if that would work for you.
I think I agree, because it will also eliminate this issue of not passing all the parameters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
So yeah, if you wanted to just, I mean, update that, you would just obviously just delete that let whatever, and then just make sure that you're like prefixing all of those with the item data dot, if you wanted to make that change.
Mira, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I just comment it out for now?
Yeah, yeah, you don't have to delete it. Definitely comment it out and then clean it up afterwards. So you remember what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay, so if item data dot, oh, it would help if I could spell. Oh, should I go through my console logs too? Maybe.
Anything that has that on there, because if it's not updated, it's gonna error out when you run it.
And I think we still need these console logs to make sure that everything is getting the right value.
Yeah, one thing I'm gonna possibly talk about is like updating this project so that it's easier to use like the debug tools, because it seems like most people are using VS Code, and VS Code has really good debugging tools. Rather than using
I would
like
love to learn
console.log
more
for
about
everything.
that. Yeah, I would love to learn more about that. That'd be amazing.
Caitlin, on the topic of VS Code tools, if you select, like, if you can select right there, date last purchased,
Yeah.
and just like select that text and Command D, if you're on a Mac,
Command D.
Oh yeah.
it's gonna highlight, and just keep pushing it. It'll highlight all of the date last purchased for you in your code. And then if you start typing, or rather if you move your cursor to the beginning of the string and start typing, what is it, item dot, it'll update all of them.
Yeah, item data dot.
If you do, I
Oh,
think
wait,
Control Shift. If you do Control Shift L, it selects all of them. You don't have to just keep pressing D.
Yeah,
Yeah, perfect.
perfect.
I forget all the shortcuts, so yeah, that's the better way.
This guy here is our actual update. Should I throw that into this instead? This one here.
I think you would update your like item date last purchased. You will set it to what needs to be set it, right? And also I think you still guys using the date last purchase where you set the new date here. Remember we saw yesterday that it would introduce different errors. You would probably pass. Oh, you're on Firebase side. Never mind. Sorry. Yeah.
My goodness, Volha, you're confusing me. That's been our entire experience with this. Would be like, we would do something and then we'd be like, wait, I think we just undid something we were supposed to do. Like we were doing circles.
Yeah. All good. So yeah, inside of here, inside of your item data, you would probably want to do just update the values, right? Like item data date last purchased, and then pass it on in here instead of like rewriting it. You would just change the values that changed.
Sorry, can you, instead of rewriting it, by rewriting it, do you mean having this object here?
Yeah. So you are replacing it in here, right? Perhaps you can do item.data dot date next purchased and then equal to new date.
Oh, in the object?
Yeah.
Item.
No, I'm sorry, not like that. So just item, like you have a different like a different line, right? For example, before this item.data, you would probably comment it out, and you will just do item.data dot date of purchase, and then equals to new data.
I can't actually hear you, but I think this is what you.
Yep.
I think that's what she was referring to, yeah.
Yeah.
Why can't you hear me?
I
Can
don't
you
know.
guys
It
hear me?
sounded like your mic got covered by something like a pillow or something.
Oh,
We can hear you now, Volha.
Yeah, we can hear you
Yeah.
now. Okay, so let's comment this out.
but also the rest of them, right?
yeah.
The ones that you updated.
But I wouldn't need to pass through the ones that aren't changing anymore, right?
Right, because
No.
you are like,
Yeah.
they are already a part of it.
Yeah, okay. And this guy, but okay. Okay. This can just be these guys, right? Okay. Okay. Someone was telling me about a fast trick, but then it took me to that weird thing, which was a different thing. So I can click Command D.
Command D, I think, is the slower one. Pat, what was
Oh,
the
okay.
all?
If you select something, it's like Shift Command L.
Shift Command L.
There you go.
Oh, cool. Sweet.
But no, it does it
dang it.
on the date created too as well.
That's okay. That's just a string for
Okay.
the console log, so that can just be like that. Okay, sweet.
I mean, if you really need to be all efficient about it.
Yeah. Okay, Shift Command L. Shift Command L. That is a sweet little one to know.
The VS Code docs do a great job of outlining all of these things. I never remember them.
There's a double item dot data on the first console log.
Oh yeah.
There's up
one.
there too. A ton. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Okay. Great. Anyone
Also
else
line
spot anything?
120.
Yeah.
Also double.
Also double.
If you want to select item data and do the same thing of Shift Command L,
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
if there are
I
any
think
more.
they're all gone now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're good. Oh no, just kidding. Let's double check. Shift Command L. It doesn't really tell me. Oops. Okay. Sweet. It hates something. Oh. 64. Oh, what have I done? Item. Why is the add item function going weird?
You can just pass the entire item data instead of, because you replaced all the values, right? So inside of here, you can just pass item data.
But this is to add. This is when you add an item. This is
Right, but
creating a doc.
But you updated that object, so you should be able to pass in just that item data, the object itself.
Really? Okay. So I can comment. Wait. I can comment all of this out.
I think you have to wrap them in the brackets. I don't remember. Or you might
I
have
don't know.
not. I don't remember.
Comment just that. Okay.
Yeah, and just type item data.
Kind of annoying.
Oh.
Do you have to do it inside the brackets or outside? I don't remember.
Let me check. No, it should be. I just need to get rid of those curly braces that were associated with the thing. They won't comment nicely. It's so annoying. I'm deleting them. Yep. Okay, it's still can be in. I just think that item as well. Gonna want me this. Okay.
We lost her.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
Exception.
Womp womp. She was on her way to the solution, so no big deal.
Yeah.
Feel like this live share would help. At least someone, even if she lost, someone can continue working.
Yeah. Let's while we've dropped her, since we're 10 minutes to the end of the call, maybe we'll take a break to go through this week's issues. And then if we've got some time, we can pick back up, or we can end our recording and whoever's available can work on troubleshooting. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. George, do you want to talk through the issues?
I will not share my whole screen. I don't need to see the tacky tables I'm looking at right now. Thank you. Okay, so items this week. So first one is, as a user, I want to be able to delete items from my shopping list so that my list isn't cluttered with items I don't want to buy in future. Breakdown is some users might make a mistake when entering an item, or may decide they won't be buying a certain item again in the future. Allowing them to delete list items will help them keep their lists tidy. Acceptance criteria is list items component renders a button that allows the user to delete an item from their list when clicked. Second is clicking the delete button prompts the user to confirm that they really want to delete an item. The third is the delete item function in API/firebase.js has been filled out and deletes the item from the Firestore database. So to give us a wireframe. So as noted in the wireframe, activating the delete button should show a confirmation dialog. And to show a wireframe? Yeah. Cool. It's easy enough. Yeah. So in the next one is, as a user, I want to view a list of my shopping list items in order of how soon I am likely to need to buy each of them again, so that it is clear what I need to buy soon. Summary is sorting the items by how soon the user might need to buy them will make it easier for the user to identify what they need to buy, which will in turn help them better plan their shopping trips. To that end, we will be sorting the items into 4 possible groups according to how urgently the user should buy the item. So the need to buy, which is 7 days or fewer until the next purchase. The need to buy kind of soon, between 7 and 30 days. Need to buy not soon, 30 days or more. or inactive, which is 60 days have passed since the last purchase. To implement this feature, your team will need to create some new UI elements so the user knows how their items are sorted, and write some logic behind the scenes to perform the sorting itself. Read the acceptance criteria and our notes carefully to be sure you understand the task at hand, and don't be afraid to reach out to the rest of your team and your mentors if you need help. Let's see, what's the acceptance criteria? So when items in the list are shown with an indicator that tells the user they should buy the item soon, kind of soon, or not soon, or that the item is inactive. This urgency indicator does not rely on only color. API/FireSword.js exports a new compare purchase urgency function with the following behaviors. Sorts inactive items last, then sorts items in ascending order of days until purchase, and sorts items with the same days until purchase alphabetically. And they have a stretch goal here. Cool. If you complete all of the previous acceptance criteria, consider what happens when an item's date next purchase is passed, but it isn't yet inactive. Let's call that item overdue. Extend the functionality of compare purchase urgency to sort overdue items to the top of the list and indicates in your UI when an item is overdue. Cool. So they got some notes here. Do they have a wireframe on here about what that should look like? Not seeing it.
Yeah, I don't think
So-
there's one for this.
Yeah, I mean, unless that's what these colors here are supposed to indicate, maybe.
I think so. Yeah,
But
I
it
think
says
it's a
to
little
not
bit.
rely on color. I don't know. It's a little vague.
Yeah. I think maybe that was updated since that wireframe was created, and there's not an updated wireframe, but yeah.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of notes in here too, to kind of go further into it. So for this week, the pairs this week. For brief. What week are we in?
Oh, this is the template anyway. This is our week 5 sync, so we're going into week 6, I believe.
Oh, this doesn't actually have it. Where are the pairs? I forget where they are.
I think you're in the wrong repo. You want to be in like the
the actual group repo.
There we
That'd be
go.
smart. No wonder I can't find anything. My bad, y'all. Been
No
a long
worries.
week.
Yeah, congrats on the new job, by the way, George. I forgot to say at the start, but
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so week 6 is Caitlin and Nuria, and Patrick and Mira. Those 2 pairs, do either of these jump out at you, or do we assign them randomly? Silence. Okay, I will assign them randomly. Cool. Do we want to go over anything else? Any questions about the issues at all? Okay, cool. Then I think I'm good.
cool. Okay. Since we're just about at the top of the hour, I'm going to end our recording here, but we can continue using the Zoom, anyone that's available to continue working on troubleshooting. So let me go ahead and end the recording.